Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The title of today's talk, First and Second Resurrection, is because I want to review a few things that for once I looked at some of the messages that was coming in. I looked at some of the messages.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I want to, if you remember one of the flyers we had from 1986, Masjid al-Islam clears the air.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we want to do kind of today a little bit, and we hope it won't take too long. Okay. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, revile not ye those whom they call upon besides Allah, lest they out of spite revile Allah in their ignorance. Thus have we made alluring to each people its own doing. In the end, will they return to their Lord, or they will return to their Lord. And we shall then tell them the truth of all that they did. So, I want to explain a little bit, since these were personal questions, they'll be semi-personal answers. The first thing is about the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, or if you will, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I'm going to also talk about Imam Muhammad. Okay, in the beginning, it was in the middle of 1963 when I was 18 years old. I heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I liked it. Nobody had to convince me, hey man, this is really good. But you have to remember, 1963. 1963 was the middle of the decolonization all over the world, in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They had the Van Dam Conference that Malcolm talks about in 1959 and 55 in Indonesia. Black Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda had just been liberated, along with some of the other countries in Africa. Some still were waiting. In America, they just had to march on Washington in 1963, and we had freedom rides and sit-ins and what have you. And so this was a period of people of color taking their life back, and starting to making demands on the system or the systems under which they live. So, inside the United States, the one that made the most sense to me for a long time was the Nation of Islam. And so, as we said, I stood up in 1963. And when I came home in 65, Malcolm had been assassinated the month before, or actually 2 weeks before I came home. But I was still functioning as a member of the Nation of Islam. So I went to temple number 26 in San Francisco, because Oakland was kind of funny. At that time, if any of y'all remember the book, This is the One, Our Savior Has Arrived, Bernard Kushmir. Bernard Kushmir was the minister in San Francisco. And at the end of 1965, he moved to Phoenix with Elijah Muhammad. And so after that, Minister Henry Masjid came, and then he became the minister in San Francisco. Although during this period there were, I'm gonna just jump. During these years, there was a whole group of brothers that were sympathetic with the theme of nation building. They helped the Nation of Islam from behind the scenes. We were one of those people in Oakland. As y'all all know, we had East Oakland Enterprises, which was an economic enterprise zone. And it worked. If you don't believe it, just get on your phone and call Oakland, California right now, and keep calling till you find somebody that's got a little age on them. They'll tell you the most successful plan or structure for a black economic enterprise zone in the United States was ours in Oakland. The Black Panther Party was formed in 1966. About the same time, maybe 2 years later, we started East Oakland Enterprises. East Oakland Enterprises took money in the black community and it kept it. It circulated around. Remember, the secret of wealth, the acquisition of wealth, is that money circulates in the community. It goes around, the TV repairman get a little bit of it, the auto mechanic get a little bit of it, right? The people with shining shoes, and the computer specialist, everybody get a little bit of that money. That's the way the Jewish community and other communities are. In the black community, money comes straight in on the first, and by the third, it's all gone. Well, if it come in on the 15th, by the 16th or the 17th, the money is gone. It wasn't like that in Oakland during our time. We circulated the money, we invested. Look, the Negro in Oakland was driving 5 and 10 times as many Cadillacs as people in any other part of the Bay Area. Everybody, well, that's what people wanted. And it was young people. That was the implementation of what we understood as black nationalism. Same thing Malcolm talked about. Control your community, what goes in your community, what comes out of your community, you control it. We did that because of one thing, was many things. But in 1966, I started selling marijuana. And within less than a year, I was rich. And in 2 years, I was actually very wealthy. Very wealthy, okay? Now, the thing about it was, some years before, in 65 and 66, when we would drive around, we would see them pretty Cadillacs. I don't know if y'all can imagine them 1965 and 66 Cadillacs, and even back 64 a little bit. Whatever it was, those were some bad boys. They just come out with them new colors and them drop tops, and the Eldorado was as long, it wasn't that little old skinny Eldorado they got now. The Eldorado was long as from here to over there, you know. So I used to go training with my friends, it was boxers and what have you. And I realized something. At first, the first year I was home, I had a job. I worked at the box company, and we all had a good time. You know, just imagine it's 65 and 66, we're 20 years old, 21, you know. So we had a nice crew of friends and associates. All of a sudden, when I got wealthy, my friends still went to work at Sherman William Paint and everywhere. And they was looking at me differently. The year before, we was all looking at, man, the Max, they got big, they looking good, they got all the cutie pie, you know, that was within a year I was doing the same thing. In fact, technically, I had more money than the Max before I even knew it, because they didn't know how to have no, they were actually poor compared to the money you get selling stuff. So anyway, so I was thinking, who wants to be in heaven by themselves? Like I'm living the dream life. Everybody, what we was looking at a year before, I'm living that life now. And my friends are looking at me differently. And plus, they got to go to work, you know. And that was good in those days to have a good middle-class job. And we just left Mississippi, Arkansas, and all that stuff. Shoot, that was pretty good living. It was good living. But they had to go to work, and I was the only, it's like being in heaven all by yourself. So I said, well, the only way we can fix that is, I'm going to just bring everybody with me. So if they wanted to invest in something, if they wanted to do something, we fronted them the money. If my friends were boxers, we'd get them money. There you go and promote your fight. Do what you're going to do. Just get the Oakland Auditorium, do whatever you want. Just give me my investment back. No interest. Just give me back what I gave you and keep on rolling. And you can come get it again and again. If you wanted to do something on the side, we would help you. Pretty soon, Oakland became not only the center of political focus in the United States. But if you notice, if you watch all them movies that came out a few years later, the Mac, that was about Oakland, Superfly TNT, went to Africa, right? And Superfly itself, Superfly was a dope dealer and wanted to quit, and so he quit, and he had it out with the police. And when he left, he had $150,000. That's what you get the idea, you know, count. And then that was the only person I knew that like that was me. When I left the country, and nobody that dealt any dope wanted to stop dealing dope. Everybody just wanted more dope. Okay? So anyway, those movies were made about what we was doing in Oakland. Superfly, where did Superfly go? Superfly went to Africa, right? What did he do in Africa? He got to know a big minister that he helped with rebellion. If you call Pete O'Neill them and everybody else that's over there now, they'll tell you I did the same thing. That's exactly what I did. And then where did Superfly go when he's all beat up? The minister told him, meet me at my house. It's across from the Masjid. And you hear the Adhan. And Superfly is following that call. And that's what get him to that big minister's house. Okay, maybe it was somebody else that we don't know. But the people was talking about us so much that they made a mistake with Superfly TNT. Because Superfly TNT, they knew I was in Africa and they was paying attention, right? But then they showed, look at Superfly TNT, they showed the brothers in Nigeria or something, it had to be an E. They showed them making salat, right? Probably was Nigeria the way they was dressed. Now remember in 1973 and all that, the Negroes seeing that, boop, they made the Mac right away. Who's in the Mac? Everybody from Oakland. So the people would stop talking about us and thinking about rebellion, right? They would stop thinking about rebellion, right? And then they would start, because all my friends from Oakland, they was in all the movies. The Ward brothers, Ted Ward and Willie Ward won the Mac of the Year. In fact, Willie Ward just died. He was last year, he was the youngest Ward brother. But actually, all those old-time Negroes were a generation before me. Willie Ward was the youngest. We got money. We was the fresh, young generation. All them older Negroes, which the Ward brothers was world famous, but they was older. Willie Ward was 7 years older than me, and he was the youngest one of them. Anyway, let me get to the point. I should speed up. Somebody mentioned about we should refer to Elijah Muhammad as Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then some other stuff. We got a big war that's going on. The reason I read this ayat, revile not ye those whom they call on besides Allah, lest they out of spite revile Allah in their ignorance. Thus have we made alluring to each people its own doing. In the end will they return to their Lord, and we shall then tell them the truth about what they did. So it says, revile not what they call on besides Allah. That's idol gods and their leadership. So from this ayat, if we said something that you feel uncomfortable about Elijah Muhammad or the Nation of Islam, then we 100% apologize, because the Quran tells us clearly not to revile or say anything negative about, even if it's an ilah, they little gods, you can't call that's what, okay. So we're following the Quran on that. The other thing is, we got a lot to do here. And the first thing this criminal system do is try to get somebody in one of our groups to point out something that somebody said or something somebody heard, and then those two groups nullify themselves. They cut themselves off from their future. By what? Divide, conquer, and rule. You look at anybody in the U.S. now and then, everybody is arguing. All the gangs, black gangs, they fight and they kill each other, right? Crips and Bloods, they're all from LA, can you imagine? And they're all from Mississippi and Arkansas, at least their parents are. The same thing with people in Chicago. I guess most of them from Mississippi. They're there slaughtering each other. Only thing, they're just in a different game. As far as the concept of Islam, first I want to review my relationship with the Nation of Islam. When I went to Algeria, people say that I took a lot of money there, and I gave it to the Black Panther Party, is what they say. That was because Huey Newton had got out of prison in 1970. And when he got out of prison, he corrupted, he got turned out. When he went into prison, he went in as a revolutionary. When he came out as a nigga. 100% nigga. I mean, just outlandish nigga. You look at his life after that 17-year-old black girl, they said she was a prostitute. He killed her in nightclubs. He'd have his whole entourage fighting and beating people up. The reason I took money to the Black Panther Party overseas is because there was a program on the radio, an interview with Eldridge Cleaver in Algeria, and with Huey there in Oakland. I didn't like the way it went. And somebody had allowed themselves to be played, and the International Black Panther Party now was not cut off or isolated, but there was some nervous or bad blood between Oakland and overseas. But what I saw in Oakland, okay, Huey got out in 1970, I left the country in 1971. By 1971, Huey Newton had destroyed the Black Panther Party in Oakland. First of all, He moved down to the Lakeshore Towers. It's right around Lake Merritt. I think he moved up on the 26th floor. That's the top floor. One of my best friends lived on the 22nd or 23rd floor. They paid $650 rent in those days when a 2-bedroom wall-to-wall carpet apartment, a new one, was $100. Wow. That's what it cost then, 2-bedroom wall-to-wall carpet, like these townhouses and all that stuff. It was $100. You paid 1/4 of your income, 1/4, for rent, not half of it like now. So if you made $400, remember people brought home $100 a week. So if you paid $100 or $110 for your rent, you had the rest the party with. But the business community and everybody else was now nervous or worried about the Black Panther Party in Oakland because it was now shaking down people. When he moved up in that apartment, he moved away from the people. And then Jane Fonda and them, all of them was coming through there. So he detached himself from the movement. I saw that when I left, I took money overseas to those guys that was in exile. Sekou Dingo was there, Pete O'Neill was there, you probably saw the Panther in Africa. Those, they still have it. Y'all have seen the letters that I got from those brothers. I'm making a point that from day one, we always supported in action what we talked about. You can see we raised $200,000-$300,000 for Imam Jamil. We just took it down to Atlanta. Everybody know it. We didn't knock on the door and ask them, counted down what you do with it. The other thing is the moral and ethics of our group in those days. If you wanted to do something, say in the nation, they had the zebra killings and whatever in the Bay Area. My lawyer, Clinton White, handled all of those, a lot of those cases. But in the meantime, when I was in prison in the early 70s, there was a whole crew of brothers from the Nation of Islam. First I thought it was just the West Coast, that's where I was. First, McNeil Island, Federal Penitentiary.